Hey guys, Pie Guy Rules here, and welcome back to the topic of discussion. Today's topic, yet some more community episode reviews. More specifically, advanced documentary filmmaking, economics of marine biology, herstory of dance, and intro to felt surrogacy. I'm going to start off with the first episode there, which would be advanced documentary filmmaking, and I'm going to say I did not like this episode. There are a lot of things about this episode that I did not like. Again, it's not like a completely awful episode. There are some things in it that are pretty good. It's not like an episode that I felt like, ruined the series or anything, or hurts the characters or whatever. And I would watch it, if I'm watching the episodes in a row, but I didn't go back and rewatch it, like, the next day after I'd already watched it, which I usually do with new community episodes. I usually want to rewatch it. I didn't want to rewatch this one. That's a sign, There's a lot of things I didn't like about the episode. Let's start off with the whole gimmick of it was that it was another documentary episode, which has only been done like 3 other times on the series. They did it with Pierce bequeathing things. They did it with the Dean's commercial, and Pillows and Blankets was a documentary episode, not Abed's documentary, but it was still a documentary. So it's a concept that they've run dry on, and like Abed said the first time, documentary style or mockumentary style for a sitcom is a very easy and lazy way to tell a story, because you can have people directly explain things to the camera. It gets exposition along, and I felt like they made a few decent jokes with the medium, but they didn't really that much. It felt like an excuse to just do that again. So I didn't really like that. I felt like it was just kind of old hat, like if they were to do another paintball episode. It's just kind of like, they realized that you can only get away with doing the same gimmick so many times. And you can still homage it, we want to see you reference the paintball stuff, but we don't really want to see another paintball episode. So like, yeah, you have that. You have the fact that Changnesia is really stupid. It's really stupid. If you want to have Chang get amnesia, I'm fine with that. I am all for that. Hitting the reset button on Chang is something that had to be done, otherwise he couldn't be on the series, because he turned into an insane madman at the end of Season 3. And that's fine, that's funny, but they needed to bring him back. They needed to bring him back to Season 2 Chang, and that's what they did, except Chang isn't. Chang's just pretending because he's working for, I assume it's going to be the other dean, because that's where we saw him last, in the vents of the other school in City College. But I don't know. But it felt like a cop-out to do the whole, he actually is Chang all along. He does remember. Although, for all we know, it could just be Chang being crazy and actually on the phone with no one. But yeah, the Changnesia thing is also, I don't like that concept. I also don't like the fact that people would actually come up with a grant for Changnesia. It's like, we get it, Greendale's a wacky place, but the entire world of Community doesn't have to be a wacky place, it's not funny if the entire world is just crazy. It has to be that Greendale's crazy in an ordinarily realistic world. So I felt like that was weak. Jeff was a complete monster in this episode, very, worse than even Season 1 Jeff, to the point where he forcibly made out with a woman. Yeah, and the worst part is he was right the entire time. He believed that Chang was faking it, and, if the ending was to be believed, Chang is faking it. And so Jeff was right. He was a complete jerk about it, but only because the rest of the study group are really stupid in this episode. Like, seriously, who would give Chang another chance, Doesn't make any sense, the dean would for money for the college, maybe, but the rest of the study group should know better. It's irritating. And so, yeah, and let's see. The other parts of the episode, I didn't like Partner and Houlihan. I didn't think that was funny. I thought that it was kind of, they were trying to emulate, the Law and Order episode from last season, but it felt so hollow. It felt like the jokes were supposed to be there, but I didn't get them. I don't know, they just didn't work for me. What else? The bits with Britta screwing up the tape at Shirley's sandwich shop, that wasn't funny either. No. I just felt, all in all, it was a very disappointing, very flimsy episode. that was based upon a gimmick that has run its course and is old now. A plot that is a bit silly, even by community standards, and they didn't really pull any good bits out of it. It was very disappointing. Um, so let's move on to economics of marine biology. I felt a lot. I felt very similar about this episode as I did the last episode. Um, like, just wasn't okay. The A plot with the dean and the whale and Annie and everyone. It felt very much like it was the commercial episode again, much like the previous. Man, the writers must have been really a fan of the dean's documentary episode, because that's what this episode felt a little bit like too. Because the dean was pretty much ruining the school, descending into madness, all for one specific goal that he thinks will help the school in the end. And so, and the whale plot, the whole thing about how, I just wanted someone to treat me with respect. Come on, that is so played out. I've seen that trope before. Do a little bit better than that, Community. Give him some other reason for sticking around Greendale. Give him, I don't know, maybe he has a crush on a student there or something. Like he gets a crush on Vicky and there's a love triangle with Fat Neil or something like that. Like, that would be, do something crazy, Why not? But as it stands, it's the dean throwing a circus for, this obnoxious whale character. And there are some funny bits out of it. The magnitude stuff was good. That was good, I will give it that. But that plot, I felt, was very dead in the water. However, I like the subplots. That's why I like this episode more than I like the advanced documentary filmmaking, because I felt that the subplots really saved it here. Because from physical education with Shirley and Troy, is it the only time that Shirley and Troy have had a plot together? Like, just the two of them? Might be. If not, it's one of the only times when they've had a plot together. And it was a good plot. It was a really good plot. It was funny. It was classic Community class shenanigans that you don't see on the show anymore because they don't go to class anymore because they're so obsessed with setting the show not at Greendale anymore because they're like, oh, if we get season 5, then they won't be at Greendale. It's like, well, worry about season 4. You use the class time while you still have the class time. You can still use that, But yeah, that was classic Greendale shenanigans in my opinion. But again, it was just a subplot, and then another subplot was Pierce bonding with Jeff. Good subplot. Very sweet. One of the few things that I think they've done better than the first 3 seasons this season, Pierce. They've handled Pierce probably the best. They've given him the best awesome moments. I mean, not including when he was a villain. Phone going off. But they've given him the nice really sweet moments this season. They've really done a good job with that. And that will continue into the next episode. But, so yeah, that was a nice plot. And then, of course, Abed creating the Delta Cubes subplot, subplot, where you're just running around like, you can't shut us down, Dean. And he's like, quiet, hooligans, that was great. That was funny. Abed would do that, that is something that would happen at why doesn't Greendale have a fraternity? Why not, It's a community college, but hey, whatever, I'd like to see more of that in the future. That would be pretty funny if they followed up on it with an episode. So overall, the main plot was very forgettable, but you know what, the episode saved itself a little bit with some subplots. Now, Herstory of Dance is a hard episode to talk about. It's hard because the episode is predictable. The plots are something that really any other sitcom would do. It's a very obvious and kind of bland episode in that respect, and it's not that funny either. However, it has to be one of the most satisfying episodes of Community to watch ever. The second best of the season, right behind Jeff's dad episode. This is my second favorite episode of the season, and I wouldn't even go as far to say it was one of my favorites of the show of all time, but it was definitely one of the most satisfying from a story arc perspective for a lot of different characters for a lot of different reasons. And that's why I think it was a solid episode. It wasn't that funny, very predictable, very sitcom-y, classic sitcom-y, but very, very satisfying and enjoyable to watch because of it. Because you had, you had Britta finally be right for once, even though technically she didn't actually do anything to earn it other than going through with it. I mean, she went through with the dance. That was that was pretty good. But even though she didn't do, so we had Britta coming through. We had Pierce actually doing something really nice and calling out Jeff. We had Jeff acknowledging the fact that he was acting like a jerk and apologizing to Britta. We had we had Abed actually fall in love. We've had Abed have a few romances with like Hilda, the video game character, and the CIA agent or the FBI agent or whatever, the Secret Service agent. But this was really real for Abed. It felt very natural. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like they just made a female Abed. It felt like it wasn't like they just gave Abed a hot girl for the sake of giving Abed a hot girl. No, it felt very genuine. It felt very much like Abed genuinely cares for this girl, and you can tell by the fact that he just wanted a normal date with her at the end. And that's really sweet to watch. And it was, like I said, overall, just a very sweet episode. I mean, it's not without its weirdness. Like, the fact that the Dean is really mean to Britta. Man, what is up with that? Like, the Dean... It's one of the problems with the Dean this season. He's become way too much of a Jeffaholic. Like, he's gotten too far with the Jeff thing. Like, they need to pull that back a little bit. He has now become a really creepy character because of it. It's not really that lighthearted and funny anymore. The joke is the whole him having a crush on Jeff thing is funnier the more subtle it is, and they've went way over the top with it. That I think they should pull back a little bit at this point. Not that they do that the next episode, mind you. But we'll get to puppets very soon. But yeah, so that's one of the weird things. Although I like the Dean's costume at the beginning. That was one of the Dean's funniest costumes. The whole, the classic sitcom. Also, what was up with the Dean being really sexist at the beginning? That was also a little bit weird. Funny, but weird. But yeah, and then again, Kevin Chang didn't really have... He was the DJ for no adequately explained reason. I mean, it's just like, we need something to do with the character, so let's just make him a DJ. But he had a few funny bits. And I mean, Abed even mentions the word trope by name. Abed is a troper. Finally, it is definitely solidified. That is a happy day. And I mean, I guess part of the episode was supposed to be predictable. Abed was intentionally invoking tropes. And that's, hey, I mean, that's meta and it's cliche. And then, and Troy's plot. I can't forget Troy's plot. About Troy supporting Britta and being there to help her with the dance, but also wanting to have shenanigans like Abed. So every second you see Troy on screen, which is not very long, you see him doing something wacky, like juggling a ridiculously long high-stacked thing of cups, or, he's going to put on a mustache and he's going to sneak over to the other dance and he's going to steal the chip. Like, classic. That was funny. That was good. Even though he was probably the character that was in the background, the absolute most, maybe save for Shirley and Annie, he did, I mean, the actor, wow, the name slips me at the moment. But anyway, Troy's actor really, Childish Gambino, whatever his actual name is, really, like, he makes the character. He did such a great job. So that's Herstory of Dance. Again, I would rank that, like, my second favorite episode this season, just underneath the Thanksgiving episode and just above the first episode of the season. Now it's time to talk about puppets. I don't really want to talk about puppets, guys. Maybe we don't have to talk about puppets. Let's just skip. Intro to Surrogacy. I didn't like it. I really didn't like this episode for a lot of different reasons. I'm trying to think about what I want to mention first of why I don't like this episode. I guess let's cut right to the chase in that the lowest point for the episode was the secrets. All of the characters, except for Abed, for whatever stupid reason, give Abed a secret too. He's not actually a robot. He is a human. He's got ambiguous disorders, and You know, he doesn't understand emotion very well, but that doesn't mean he's never done anything in his past that he feels ashamed of. Anyway, half the characters' secrets were really damaging to the characters. It makes me look at them in a different way. Not that they're completely ruined forever or anything. I don't see it like that. But at the same time, it definitely takes away from the characters learning some of these things. Look, Britta's about how she never votes makes sense. You know, completely logical. Still embarrassing for her, but makes sense. Jeff's, not going to that little boy's baseball game, totally within the character of Jeff. Yeah, it's a horrible thing to do, but it makes sense for Jeff, and he's got, good reasons for doing so. Troy set fire accidentally. I think it was accidentally. He caused a massive fire, and I know Troy. It was probably accidental, but the fact that he didn't come clean, and the fact it's really like that's what you went with. And then Annie's been rubbing the history teacher's feet for the test answer. Or no, the history teacher's been rubbing her feet for the test answers. So not only is Annie cheating, but Annie is also doing a really creepy pseudo-sexual activity with the really old professor. And of course you have Shirley, who left her kids at the grocery store for hours while she went to pursue someone who she thought was her husband cheating on her. And Pierce never banged Eartha Kitt, but that's funny, and that's in line with the character. These secrets hurt the characters, but even worse than that, the secrets feel very much like one-off gags. It feels like a Family Guy style joke where, they would make a one-off reference just because, for either shock value or the sake of comedy, or... Is there a waterfall going on upstairs? Yeah, pipes. But for the sake of comedy or cheap laughs or whatever, it feels like these are things that are never going to be brought up again. And the episode has so much other stuff in it that they don't have time to really focus on it. I feel like, so not only does that hurt the characters and stuff, but I feel like it was a wasted premise. I feel like if they had another bottle episode style thing where Shirley reveals this horrible thing that she did to her kids, and then, she guilts someone else into revealing a horrible thing they once did. And then, basically the rest of the episode is them guilting each other into revealing horrible things and then judging each other about it. That would be a great episode. That would deal with the ramifications of this stuff. But instead it's just like, here it is. So that's one of the things that really bugged me about the episode, and is that it felt like that part felt like a wasted premise, and then the entire thing felt like a wasted idea. Puppets, community with puppets. How could you go wrong? Well, I guess here's how you could go wrong. And again, this is all my opinion. If you enjoyed the episode, totally fine. I could see how you would, because on the surface, it is just, it's fun to see them as puppets, but it's such a wasted idea. They could have done so many better things with it, because in addition, talking about hurting characters and continuity and stuff, the fact that they went on a hot air balloon ride, got lost, met a mountain man who conveniently went to Greendale, and all had a psychedelic trip on berries. And by the way, they left Pierce out in the woods. It all just, it's too ridiculous to be, like, it's like, what? Like, what? You guys have, yeah, you're doing it with puppets, but you guys know this actually had to have happened to the characters. Like, you can't just spit in the face of that, You can't make light of the fact that they've had this really ridiculous adventure. And I mean, there's the clip show episode, the first one, where they do show that they've done a lot of ridiculous things, but that was different. This is like, we're seeing exactly what happened, And it's like, really, this is what you went with? And everything, the songs were even off. The songs were not good at all. And I usually love Community songs. I want there to be another CD. There's a CD for the first season, but not one for the second, third, or fourth yet. There better be another one coming at some point. But I usually love Community songs, other than Yvette Nicole Brown, Shirley, showing that she has an amazing singing voice. The rest of it was just like, it all felt like tired chants. It felt like it was just like, well, we're doing a puppet episode, we gotta do this. I felt like they would have done a lot better if they had parodied like Sesame Street, or if it was like a typical Greendale day, but with puppets, instead of trying to do this ridiculous thing, this ridiculous adventure with Mountain Man, Magoo, or whatever. it felt too far out there. The songs weren't funny. The episode wasn't funny. It's a blatant ripoff of the Christmas episode of Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas, where they need therapy, and so they do go into a separate medium. Total ripoff. And they even mentioned Duncan, which was the funniest, probably the only funny thing I found about the episode, was when Troy randomly mentions, has anyone seen, why hasn't Professor Duncan been around? Which, by the way, is because John Oliver left to do the Daily Show full time, which is unfortunate because he was a good character. He was a very good character, very funny actor too. But yeah, and the Dean, the Dean has more really creepy moments where he's hitting on Jeff and being a jerk to the rest of the study group members. And again, he almost even reveals some of his dark secrets, but thankfully the study group cut him off. Because we don't ever want to see the Dean change, we don't really want to see him have that growth. He's just like we want to see him be happy, but at the same time, it ruins the joke, It's like if you had Tobias divorce Lindsay and actually, Arrested Development references, but, and actually, start dating guys. Like, it ruins the joke, So all in all, and I guess also because I had somewhat, I don't know, from the previews some stuff seemed off, but I had somewhat high expectations for a puppet episode of Community. And the puppets look great, by the way. The puppets looked absolutely great. The puppeteer work was good, I guess? I mean, I don't want to knock them, but some of the lip syncing seemed a bit off. And I guess that's not entirely, because the actors didn't do the puppeteering, because they're not puppeteers, but because of that, I feel like something was really lost in the puppeteering. And also, I wanted to, if there's anything that I actually wanted to see happen that would be really funny, is actually seeing the group in live action tripping on berries. That would be a million times more funny than showing puppets tripping out on berries. Like some of the choices they made like that were really bizarre. And what else? Oh, I will also say this is actually a kind of a clever way to write around the fact that Chevy Chase had walked off the set. They made him agree to do the voicing for this episode. So even though Chevy Chase wasn't there Pierce wasn't there in person, his character was still represented, which was good because there's never been a Community episode without the full Greendale 7, and it'll be really sad when there is an episode that doesn't include Pierce at all. And so yeah, overall, the episode very, very much feels like they wanted to do a puppet episode before really having a good idea for doing a puppet episode. They were like, let's do a puppet episode, and then later on they must have been like, wait, what are we actually gonna do with the puppet episode? It felt very much like that. It hit the wrong notes. It didn't resonate with me. It really didn't. Yeah. It actually, that and Advanced Documentary Filmmaking are my least favorite episodes of the season. Actually, my least favorite episodes probably of all time, barring maybe a few first season episodes. But that actually brings me to a point that I wanted to make, and I don't want to do too much of this talking, because I'll talk about this more after the full season is over, but I want them to come back for a 5th season, because, yes, the writers haven't been doing that great a job. The show hasn't been very funny. Hasn't been as funny as it was, nowhere near it. It hasn't been as, as complex or interesting or had that many good concepts as it once did. But you have to also remember Season 1, the first half of Season 1, even with Dan Harmon at the helm, they didn't have the characters down, they didn't have the comedic timing down yet. So I feel like this new crew, this 13 episodes is their learning curve. And if NBC gives them another chance, gives them a Season 5, hopefully they'll be able to pull through and really kind of get it at that point. Having had a year under their belts, really nail it. Listen to criticism, listen to what we're saying, listen to what we think they need to do, and really buckle up and give us a good Season 5. That's what I'm hoping. However, if the show goes out after Season 4, you know what? I can deal with the fact that there's only been a few bad episodes in the entire series. And I can be very happy of that and very proud of that. And I want to say that the actors are doing an amazing job. regardless of how much the writers and directors and stuff aren't very familiar with this, the actors being familiar with the characters are really what's pulling it and really what's making it still an interesting season to watch, and still what brings me back week after week, because I believe there will be another episode within the last four that will blow me out of the water. I am very much hoping. But yeah, that's all I have to say for now. So I'll see you guys in a few weeks when I talk about the last 4 episodes of season 4. Pie Guy rules.